What up, Facebook? What up? You ever try to podcast with two kids? Boy, dang near impossible. Welcome to the Morning Sun Podcast. I'm your host, TJ Two Braids. This is brought to you by Anchor FM. You can find it, a free app, download it. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, The Morning Sun. I'm your host, TJ Two Braids. And like I was saying before, have you ever tried to podcast with two kids? Dang near impossible. But it's not fully impossible, okay? So, I don't got a lot of time to waste, so I'm going to be getting into the topics immediately. So, we have 3 topics today. Your life is a theater. I'm going to talk about, and at any time, if my 2 kids act up or something happens, I may have to cut it off. But your life is a theater. The second thing we're going to talk about is breaking out of our bubbles. The bubbles that we put ourselves in, breaking ourselves out of them. And then the third thing, some sports talk. But because I don't have a lot of time, I have 2 kids. Their mom's gone right now. And I had to go to my basketball outreach at 2. This is going to be a quicker podcast. But first of all, if we're to think about our life as a theater, you might be asking, what the heck are you talking about, your life as a theater? As my son wants another snack. Your life is a theater. So if I were to show you this picture right here, I'm gonna hold it up to the screen. And if you're listening via audio, I just basically drew a basic diagram of a theater. So in a theater, you have a stage, right? And then you have, the front row and the middle section and the back, and then you have the balcony. And then, of course, there's the entrance and exit to get into the building itself. Your life is a theater. You are on center stage. Now, if you're to think about your life as a theater, this is something that I recently learned, this concept, and I didn't recently learn it in my life, but I recently learned it in this form where you draw it out and you make it an activity. You're at center stage. It's up to you to decide who is inside of your theater. You have to make that conscious decision to decide who's going to be in your theater. Maybe for the first time, you're realizing that you have control over who's in your theater. Secondly, you have to realize that. But so now think about that. Think about, you're deciding who's in your theater. When you look at the front row, what does the front row mean? Let's say you're going to you finna go see J. Cole when he comes to the Armory or whatever. Or let's say you're gonna go see son, you're in the way. Let's say you're gonna go see some show, right? Let's say you're gonna go see some show. The front row of the theater, what does that mean? That means that's prime real estate, right? That's where people pay. They get the floor seats. They bring their camera. They Snapchat the whole concert, right? You might as well just watch your friend's Snapchat story because they're going to film the whole thing for you. But the front row is the prime seats. That's where everybody wants to be, right? So the person in your theater, or the persons, it could be a family member, it could be a parent, could be someone you're in relationship with, could be a cousin, whoever it is. The people in the front row of your theater are the people who have the most say in your life, and they're influencing you in the greatest ways. Now remember, you have to decide. Who's in the middle of your theater? Think about that. Who's in the middle section of your theater? Who's in the back? Who's way in the back? Who's in the balcony? Who's in the balcony of your theater? Who's not even in your theater? who hasn't even made it into the show because the show's sold out. I want you guys to think about this. Are there people in your life, if your life's a theater, you're at center stage, right? Everyone's there to see you. If your life is a theater, are there people that need to be rearranged? Are there people who've been in the front row because they're your childhood friend, because they're your sibling, who really don't deserve front row seats because they're toxic, they give you bad advice, they enable you, vice versa, whatever the case may be? Are there people that need to be rearranged? Are there people who need to go from the front row to the middle? Are there people who you've left on the back burner because they do keep it real with you and they give you great advice, but you just don't want to hear it and be accountable? Maybe they need to go further up and become more influential in your life. Are there people you need to put in the balcony? You say, look, man, I love you. I'm grateful you're in my life, but at this time, you need to be in the balcony. I can't have you up front with all the noise. And are there people who need to be kicked completely out of your theater? Are there people who need to be kicked completely out? There's people in my life that I've had to kick out of my theater. Doesn't mean I don't love them. Doesn't mean I'm not grateful for what we went through together, whether it's friends, relationships, family. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person. All it means is that at this time in my life, I need you out of my theater because you're toxic, you're negative, you're influencing me in a negative way and whatnot. Are there people who need to exit your theater? Is there some rearranging that you need to do in your theater? Think about your life as a theater. It's all gone, son. All gone. Think about your life as a theater. Are there people who need to exit your theater? And I just recently went through this with a class I'm teaching at TCLI, and the dude, he said, TCLI is Teen Challenge Leadership Institute, by the way. But he said, this is beautifully disturbing. And he said it really hit home. Yeah, Sequoia, we hooping at 2, bro. I'm finna be on the way after this podcast. He said this is beautifully disturbing because there's people in his life that do need to be rearranged. And there's people in his life who do need to exit. Baby, there's water right over there. Grab daddy's water. There's people who do need to exit. And so that's just something to think about. Who's in your theater? Who has the most influence in your life? Does anyone need to leave your theater? It wasn't until I decided to stop hanging around all the gangbangers, drug addicts, criminals, and change my life. Now, there was repercussions for that. People wanted to jump me. People hated on me. People didn't like I was going to college. I had to make a conscious effort that, look, it's nothing but love with you, but I can't have you in my life in that influential way. So you got to get up out of my theater while I sober up, go to college, pursue my dreams, pursue my passions. And if I would have never made those decisions to kick those people out of my theater for a time being, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So is there anyone in your life who has too much influence on you that they need to rotate? So think about that. That's the first segment. This is the Morning Sun Podcast. I'm your host, TJ Two Braids. This is brought to you by Anchor FM. It's on Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Follow us on Instagram at the Morning Sun Podcast. Follow me on YouTube at TJ Two Braids. People always, they spell it wrong. It's the number 2 and the word braids with a Z. So the number 2, BRAIDZ. You can find me on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Apple Music, everywhere. Check it out. So, yeah, God bless you, bro. What up, Aaron? So the second thing is I wanted to talk about real quick. And, you know, my kids are actually doing pretty good right now. They sitting here watching PJ Masks. But breaking out of our bubbles. I made a post yesterday, and it said something like, it's greatly disturbing to me, or I have a hard time with Christians who stay in their bubble, and they don't want to associate with, befriend, and even become close to those who are in the lost and dying world that we're called to. So, boy, watch PJ Masks. You're good. Moses over here sucking his thumb. So, breaking out of our bubble. What does that mean? I feel like I've been called to burst bubbles a lot in what I've been called to. So, whether it's at churches I've been involved in, where I went to school, North Central University, among my peers, among my friends and family. You want to come on Daddy's lap? Among my friends and family. Say hi to the people, baby. This podcast may be ending very shortly because this boy is real grabby. Say hi, baby. So, how do we break out of our bubble? How do we not get so accustomed to just being around those that we're familiar with? It doesn't have to be just Christianity. It doesn't have to just be Christianity. It could be anything. But specifically in Christianity, you are called to a lost and dying world. So if you're okay with just being around church people, just going to church, just living in your nice little bubble, in your gated community, away from the hood, away from the violence, the crime, away from young people because they're just so disrespectful and rude, we have to burst out of that bubble. I personally have a hard time just being around only Christian people because I know what I was saved from. And the rest of the world needs the hope that we have. But it just doesn't have to be about Christians. I mean, you think about it, could be about your race. We always only just want to be around native people. Or we dislike this other race. Or we only want to be, if we're black, we only want to be around black people. Or we only want to be around white people if we're white. Or if we're Mexican, we only want to be around Mexican people. Burst out of the bubble, man. That's why there's so many walls of division and hatred, and a lot of it is there are true racist people and there are true divisive people, but there's also people who are just uninformed and ignorant because they've never broken out of that bubble. They've never broken out of that bubble, and so they don't know what to do, you know? So you think about that. How do we burst out of our bubbles? How is that possible, to burst out of our bubbles? It takes a conscious effort. It takes acknowledgement that we're in a bubble, right? And sometimes it takes people like maybe me come along and poke at that bubble and say, hey, it's not right that we just stick to the same people. It's not right that we're just in the same environment all the time. Let's go out of our comfort zone. Let's do something new. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Same thing with politics. We think we can't be friends with Democrats if we're Republican. We think if we're conservative, we can't be friends with liberals. We think if we're liberal, we can't be friends with conservatives. We think if someone voted for Obama, they can't be our friend or family. Or if someone voted for Trump, we can't be friends or family with them. How sad is it that you ain't, number one, you're never going to meet probably your favorite athletes, your favorite movie stars, your favorite politicians, all these people you will let consume your life, right? But then there's the people in your family, in your neighborhood, at your jobs, at your schools, and because they look different, they talk different, they act different, they vote different, or whatever the case may be, we don't want to associate with them because we want to stay in our bubble. And that's part of what I meant by acknowledgement. We have to acknowledge we're in a bubble. We have to acknowledge that staying in that bubble is not good. There's nothing wrong with community. There's nothing wrong with diversity. There's nothing wrong with being passionate about what you believe in. But if you allow yourself to stay in a bubble and not ever get outside of it and get to know your neighbors and get to know your people in the city and others who are different than you, and if you don't ever challenge your worldviews and beliefs, then do you have any solid backbone? to your whole way of life and existence. I believe everyone should challenge their beliefs. Challenge your beliefs. Ask tough questions. Get outside of your comfort zone. Learn from other people and hear what they have to say. So, I would encourage you to burst out of your bubble. Try new things. Meet new people. Go into a different culture. One of the best experiences I ever had in one of my classes at North Central, they made me go to like 3 different religious institutions that were not like evangelical Christianity. Just go observe how they act, how they worship, what they do, their culture, their way of life, their belief system. It was an amazing experience. I'm very glad that the professor, I forgot who it was, challenged us to do that. So how do we break out of our bubbles? There's too many bubbles. That's why there's division, hate, racism, ignorance, division, all of that. Let's break out of those bubbles. Let's be better. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is just some sports talk. So this is a shorter podcast, but if you're listening, welcome to the Morning Sun Podcast. Give it a like, give it a share, comment, message us if you have a certain topic you want to talk about. If there's any special guests that want to be on the show, But the Vikings, so we're switching gears now. We're going to talk about sports real quick before I end. The Vikings and the Chargers play tomorrow. The one mistake the Vikings can't make is they cannot overlook the Chargers. Now, don't get me wrong. The Chargers have a bad record. They flexed our game off of Sunday night. We were supposed to play Sunday night. Phillip Rivers is probably the greatest quarterback who loses close games in NFL history. The dude is in every game he's ever played in. He just can't win those games. And if the Vikings think that the Chargers are going to be just a cakewalk, we're going to lose tomorrow. I'm telling you, the Chargers can put up points. They're underrated. They have Melvin Gordon. They have, they're just underrated. They're ferocious. Like this little kid, Moses, who doesn't want to let me finish my podcast because he's getting antsy. But that's okay, baby. Daddy loves you. Say hi to the people, son. Say hi. Say dada. So, we can't overlook the Chargers. I hope that we have a solid game plan. I went to the game last week against the Lions. As soon as we got up by 2 touchdowns, we just basically quit playing football and ran the ball out. Now, luckily, we just ran the game out and we still won. But, secondly, we can't overlook the Chargers. Secondly, hopefully everyone can stay healthy. I think, personally, I don't know. Should we save Adam Thielen for the playoffs? But we can't just assume he's going to come back at the start of the playoffs and be in game shape. So he needs a couple tune-up games. Hopefully he's ready tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Shout out to everyone who's battling it out in fantasy football playoffs. I'm in the semifinals myself. Rudy, if you watch this, I hope I destroy you tomorrow, man. But it's all love regardless. And then also, why is the NFL flex schedule so terrible? So they flexed the Vikings off Sunday night. The Ravens and Jets are playing on Thursday. It's a complete blowout. What a waste of time. The Ravens and 49ers game wasn't flexed. That's one of the dumbest things ever. And then the Ravens and Saints game wasn't flexed. The Ravens versus 49ers and the Ravens versus Saints were 2 of the best games of the whole year. Isn't that the point of the flex schedule? If we can't flex the actual games that matter, then do away with the flex schedule. What was the score of the Ravens and Saints? Or the 49ers and Saints? Like 48-46? Best game of the year by far. Tons of scoring. But because the NFL has a flex schedule, they don't know how to work properly. We missed that game. So, son, you're okay, buddy. I'm almost done. What do you want? What? You want to sit on Daddy's lap? Come on. Come here. Now, he's jealous. He want to sit on Daddy's lap. Come on, boy. Get up here. Got both my boys for the last segment. Baby Two Brays and Moses. So, why is the NFL flex schedule so bad? I don't know. Say hi, son. The last thing I'm going to say is this. I went to the Timberwolves game last night. Kawhi Leonard dropped 42. Paul George dropped 46. It was just an unbelievable display of talent. But more impressively, in my opinion, the Timberwolves came back and they only lost by single digits. Karl Anthony Towns basically fueled like a 22-3 run or something by himself. Had a 4-point play, some buckets, dunks, you know. But man, how do you beat if Kawhi and Paul George show up like that in the playoffs? The Clippers are going to be unbeatable. What are they going to do to be able to stop them? Nothing. So, think about that. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They're the first, was it the first duo or the first Clippers duo to score 40 each in a game? It was a dope game. ESPN was there. The Timberwolves rolled out their new powder blue uniforms. I think they could have been a little cooler. They just say MSP. I don't know if they're the airport jerseys or what, but yeah, man. Don't get me started on the Timberwolves because we'll be here for another hour, but Jeff Teague is doo-doo. That boy needs to take a pay cut at the very least. He's a decent player, but he's not a $20 million player. He should not be getting paid $20 million a year to play basketball. Stars make that money. He's not a star. He dribbles the shot clock out until there's great one-on-one player. He can score. He can get to the basket. But to run an offense, not very good. And Ryan Saunders, I'm sorry, dude. You're only our coach because you're Flip's son. We love your family. We thank you for what you did for Minnesota basketball, but you look dazed and confused out there. Like you're not sure of what's going on. So, all in all, there's a lot more I would like to say, but I just wanted to get another episode up and out because I missed a few days, been busy. As you can see, my hands are literally full with 2 kids. But this is the Morning Sun Podcast. I'm your host, TJ Two Braids. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Anchor FM. I will post the video of this on YouTube and the audio link on Spotify, Anchor FM, everywhere podcasts are found. And with that, man, I hope y'all have a blessed Saturday. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Y'all get ready for the holidays. I can't wait to taste Grandma Ruth's Reese's Pieces bars. It's finna be straight fuego. But with that, man, I'm out. Y'all have a good day. God bless y'all. And peace. Say bye, Moses. Say bye, baby. Love you.